Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Bayen, a story by Mahasweta Devi. Bhagirathi is a young boy when his mother Chandi is declared a Bayen. Bayen means witch. She is now a pariah and has to live by the railway tracks, and Bhagirathi stays with his father Malinder and his stepmother. Chandi's shed has a red flag on top of it and she wears red as well. One day she leaves the shed and comes to the edge of the pond. Malinder orders his son away and asks angrily why she came. She says she needs oil for her hair and kerosene and is afraid to be alone. She is crying and says her food was stolen by the dogs. Malinder yells at her and throws a handful of mud and stones in her direction. Later, he is distressed, remembering how much he loved her. Bhagirathi is astonished and frightened that his father talked to a Bayen, as doing so means sudden death. He has heard Bayens are not human beings and he cannot fathom how he could have been the son of one Bayen. Malinder tries to explain that she was once a woman but is no longer one, and thus Bhagirathi does not have a mother anymore. Malinder is a Dom who works in the cremation grounds. He can sign his name, which has elevated him above his family, and now he is respected in the community. Malinder explains that Chandi had everything when she was his wife, and he is sad that fate made a witch out of her. She is better off dead, he tells his son. Bhagirathi puzzles over his father's words and he thinks a great deal about his mother. He is too afraid to go to her, wondering if he will never come back or be turned into a tree or a stone. The saying is that if you ill-treat a Bayen's son, your children will die, which Bhagirathi's stepmother takes to heart. She is not mean to him but cares only for her daughters and has a very formal and emotionless relationship with her stepson. She often fears the Bayen will work a spell on her daughters. She is an ugly woman, which Malinder sought specifically because his first wife was beautiful and turned out to be a witch. One day, Malinder and his son are walking home along the railway tracks. Malinder is carrying meat as he cannot kill the pigs he raises himself. He invites his son to sit down under the banyan tree. Bhagirathi notices the place is the one the robbers visit. Lately, there had been a string of robberies of the evening trains, and the robbers often hung out by this banyan tree. He then thinks about school. He knows that the Untouchability Act of 1955 got rid of the caste and that there is a constitution that talks about equality. But at school, he and others like him sit still apart. Malinder is thinking about his first wife. He was a hard man and his wife was lovely. But then she became a Bayen and he became a gentleman. He decides to tell his son about Chandi. He begins by explaining she believed she was a descendant of Kaludom and belonged to the Gangaputras, a race of cremation attendants. Her father used to dig the graves and spread thorn bushes over them to keep the jackals out. He was a frightening man and villagers kept children away from him. One day, Chandi came among them and announced her father was dead and she would now bury the dead and guard the graves. When people asked if she was afraid, she only scoffed. Malinder during those days was in bone business with a morgue official as bones were used in fertilizer. One night he came across Chandi by the banyan tree and asked if she was afraid of the dark. She laughed uproariously. They married and had Bhagirathi. Not long after Bhagirath was born, Chandi came home crying, saying people stoned her and said she meant evil. Malinder was indignant and said that he knew how envious people were of him. Chandi sighed that she did not have the heart to do her work with the graves anymore, but it was God's will. If there was a male member of her family, he would do it, but she was the only one. Chandi could not reject the traditional occupation, but her fear grew every day. Even after she covered the graves, she worried and wept. She prayed for all the children in the village and her breast ached with milk. When she complained she was not fit for this anymore, no one listened. Malinda's sister and her daughter Tukni came to visit. There was a smallpox outbreak and Tukni fell ill and died. Chandi was blamed. She never had vaccinations but instead went to the temple for the goddess Shitala. The people talked about how milk spilled from her breast while she stood over Tukni's grave. This superstitiousness exasperated Chandi and she finally quit her job guarding the graves. At home, Chandi talked to Malinder about his potential new government job and wanting to move. He laughed and teased her about being a Bayen, but she was horrified and told him not to utter that word. She cried and begged him to run away. A feeling came upon her and she was afraid that she would never see her husband and son again. For a few days, she acted dazed and strange. 2 months passed and things appeared peaceful. Chandi was worried about the dead children. She said it seemed like she could hear her father raising his old call. This bothered Malinder, who was beginning to wonder if she was slowly changing into a witch. The Dome community did not forget Chandi. They came out one stormy night and yelled for Malinder. His courtyard filled with people. Malinder was shocked when Ketan, an uncle of sorts to Chandi, said he was keeping a Bayen for a wife. Malinder saw Chandi with a sickle and a lantern and asked what she was doing. She said she was just trying to cover the children's graves. The village began to pronounce her a Bayen. She protested that she was just doing her forefather's job and was not a Bayen since she had her own son. When she asked Malinder to defend her, his mind was seared with pain and he heard a voice telling him not to go near her or something terrible would happen. Malinder yelled out that she was a Bayen and she let out a terrible cry. Bakirath, listening to the story, asks what happened next. Malinder explains how she went to live alone at Beltala. He pauses and they can hear her singing. The song entered his soul, mingled in his blood, and reverberated in his ears like some inscrutable pain. A few days later, Bakirath rushes to the pond, having heard his mother. He asks her if she would like a new sari or his dhoti. She replies that he should not talk to her and should not be out in this heat. He says he has heard her crying. She tells him to go home and never come near her, come again, or she will tell his father, and she turns away. Alone that night, the Bayen reflects on how she is only a shadow of herself. It has been a long time since she has thought of anything. Suddenly she has a thought that the child is in terrible danger. Malinder is clearly a thoughtless parent. She grabs a lantern and heads out along the railway tracks. There are people on the tracks piling up bamboo and she addresses them. The robbers look up at her and she tells them she knows what they are doing. They flee in fear from the Bayen. As the rain pours down, she tries to clear the tracks and prevent disaster but couldn't. She wishes she actually had supernatural powers. As the train nears, she runs toward it and flails her arms and screams for it to stop. But the train's light swallowed her up. Her name becomes associated with self-sacrifice and heroism as she prevented a major train disaster. The government announces she will receive a medal and asks who will receive it on behalf of the brave women. People look around at each other. This surprises Bakirath, who comes forward and announces Chandi was his mother. He names her and himself and his father and begins to cry. He says she was never a Bayen, and the story ends here. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.